All righty. Early's on time, isn't it? Zero, 5, 7, 0, 2, 2, 6. 1001, 1002, 1003. Try one more. 057, 03, 12. Oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah. You have a choice of this book, Uneasy Street, The Anxieties of Affluence, which is a really interesting book about the angst of the rich. I have the Atlas Shrugged movies. I'll bet you won't want a Trump dollar. I'm just guessing. But you might. I have Wisdom from the Robber Barons. And I have a Trump dollar. Trump money. Trump money. Not sure which one this is, but this is, yeah. This is a full-color Donald Trump $2 bill. Huh? What would you like?
Anyone you recommend.
I'll take this one. There you go. All right. All righty. Back to work. I am on your page 27. So this is the thing I have the most trouble with clients, is they don't track and measure differential value of customer. And if they do know it or can go fetch it, they aren't doing anything about it, and largely speaking, won't do anything about it. And yet, it's where you have enormous leverage if you are managing pretty much any kind of numbers at all. So, what is this customer worth over 6 months, 3 years, 10 years, versus this customer based on where we got them from, now affects all sorts of behaviors that we engage in with our advertising and our marketing and our selling. Now, some businesses, hey, little guy, close the doors. It's time to close the doors. Thanks. Reach up and close the doors. So some businesses get so big it's not practical, okay? And I get it. I mean, we demonstrated with Proactive at Guthy-Renker that the customer that is a single parent is more valuable significantly than the customer where mom and dad are living together as a happy family. Because the single parent is guiltier, more nervous about the kid, so the whole, if your daughter has really bad acne and won't come out of her room to go to the prom, the next thing you may see is her hanging in the closet by a rope, works better on the single parent than it said more elegantly than that. But said, so that's a differential value by who they are, right? Source, do they come from TV? Do they come from mail? Do they come from print? There's a lot of different ways that, so like I can tell you in our business, all right, the customer who comes from flyover country is worth more than the customer who comes from either coast. The least valuable customers come from the East Coast. Anything north of Florida, moving up the East Coast. If you wanted to spend your money wisely and you were running No BS Inner Circle and you were doing mail, for example, you would not mail the East Coast. You would spend more money mailing the places that give us the highest value customers. Many of you are aware of affiliate marketing. So no disrespect to any of them, but the kind of get rich on the internet kind of folks, Ryan Dice, Russell Brunson, Frank Kern, affiliate campaign, they can deliver us a lot more customers than, say, Ben Glass can. But the differential value by that source is unbelievable. The one we get from Ben is worth a big number of the ones we get from over there. But if we don't measure that, we don't know it. And then if we don't do anything about it, we will either democratize our relationships and do all the same things for Ben we would do for Ryan and all the same things we would do for Ryan for Ben, or worse, we will undemocratize our relationships to favor the person bringing us body count. Oh, he produces 500. He only produces 5. We got to send him a thank you note. This guy, we got to send a giant walking, talking, thanking person in a Lamborghini. And it's the exact opposite, of course, of what we should do. So this issue of differential customer value, monitoring it, measuring it, figuring it out, and then using it is really, really important. It's where you can get financial leverage that does not exist any other way. And it either happens largely by source in the first place. Who are they? Where did they come from? Where did we get them from? And one source will be better than another source. So like financial advisors find old people TV. Everybody has at least one old people TV station in their market. They run reruns of Bonanza, and, Barnaby Jones, and Hogan's Heroes, and you can get them with an antenna. You don't even need cable. The ad rates are pretty cheap, and they work for a financial advisor. However, they ain't bringing you anybody with $1 million, $5 million of investable assets. It's not happening, especially if you're driving them into a workshop. Because should the $5 million guy like Hogan's Heroes and be watching it, he still ain't coming to a free workshop. He knows it's filled with a bunch of broke old people who are watching the old people TV station. He pretty much thinks he's the only not broke person watching, and he's probably right. So this differential issue, because most people deal with raw numbers. Their math is all raw, surface, superficial numbers. So like we teach restaurant owners all the time, capture birthdays, right? Your future bank money is how many contact records do you have for which you have your birthday and her birthday, right? Preferably your wedding anniversary also. Those three things are worth real money. So teach that like hitting them over the head with a hammer. Now, the question that will stump them, even if they get good at that, which even taught it all, only 5 out of 100 restaurant owners will be willing to run a system to capture the data. But even if they do, here's the stump them question. Which ones bought expensive wine when they were there and which ones didn't? Huh? Well, if we know that, if I know you're going to pop for a $300 bottle of wine and they're going to drink ginger ale, can I spend more money to get you in for your birthday than I spend to get them in for their birthday? Yes. Should I? Yes. Where's my leverage? Enormous leverage. If I spent $5 more on the campaign to them than I did to them, and I got a $300 bottle of wine, and I got ginger ale, the leverage on my $5 extra, I sent you a picture of a birthday cake, I sent you a little styrofoam, birthday cake when you press the button it sings happy birthday. I spent $5 more on you than I spent on them, and I sold a $300 bottle of wine when you came in, or because you probably bring another couple with you when you go out on your birthday, and now you're going to show off, so I sold a $700 bottle of wine, or two $300 bottles of wine. Can I spend more money? Yes. Should I spend more money? Yes, right? But you don't see it happen because nobody tracks and manages this math. High-value customers, who do they tend to refer? Other high-value customers, of course. Low-value customers, who do they tend to refer? Low-value customers. It's the only people they know. So can you spend more to get a high-value customer because he's going to refer? Well, of course you can. Should you? Of course you should. But you've got to have the data, the information, in order to do the math, to do this smart. So one differential factor is who they are, where they come from. Right? The second differential factor is internal influence, meaning what you do with them when you get them. And we don't really think much about how do we train customers to be high-value customers. But it's done. So the diamond industry's rule they created is what? How do you decide how much to spend on a ring? Yeah, it's 3 months' salary. That's the first training of how you are supposed to behave around here, is you spend 3 months of your salary. Which means a guy that makes $100,000 a month is supposed to buy a $300,000 ring. Oh, you just said, shh. Does she know how much you make? Well, yeah, and actually, the more affluent you are, the more months. Yeah, any other help you want? Aren't you glad you sat right up front? So, do you have a training program? Do you have rules, methodology for how you're supposed to decide how much you're supposed to spend around here? Are you pre-framing that behavior? A lot of times we do it with ascension pyramids. You're all familiar with it, right? But a lot of businesses fail to show the pyramid. Or they fail to teach the customer how to know when they're supposed to move up. Is that supposed to happen in 3 months? Is that supposed to happen in 6 months? Is that supposed to happen when you get it? Is that supposed to happen when you reach a certain age? So one of the latest Fisher Investments TV ads. No. They know what, so here's what Fisher says. Their worst ad is the one not using Fisher. Some nitwits are trying to take him out of the commercials. But in one of the ads, he talks about if you got to this point of $500,000 or more with mutual funds, it's now time to move up to a better way of investing. He's setting the frame of how you know you're ready for Fisher. I got 500 grand and it's all in mutual funds. You now can do better. Before, mutual funds were okay. But now you can do better. So what we do with them when we get them, how we teach them how to spend, when to spend, what they're supposed to spend is important. Now, once we have this in place, the worst marketing spending is democratized spending. It's the worst spend you can engage in. Now again, really big companies get to the point where they almost can't help it. Right? First of all, they got so much to spend, they got to buy a lot of media. So they got to buy slop. They really don't have much choice. They sit around and decide we're going to spend $30 million this year reaching people that watch sports. All right, we'll divide it between basketball, football, golf. That's what's going to go on. And pretty much I'll acknowledge at a certain point that's what they got to do. We don't have to do that. Nobody in here is at the level where you can't be discriminatory in your spends. And largely, you should have to be. So our friends at New Vocations, they work with the thoroughbred industry and they work with the standardbred industry. Harness racing, thoroughbred racing. Thoroughbred, the kind you just saw, Triple Crown. Harness, there's pictures out there. They pull the little carts. Right? Thoroughbred racing is called the sport of kings. Harness racing is a very blue-collar, family business sport. There's not near as much money in it, and there's nowhere near as much money put in it. There's not a lot of yearlings in harness that top $1 million when people buy them. Thoroughbred racing, there's a ton of them. Most of them you never hear about because they wind up somebody's riding horse somewhere. Early, not late. Breeding's only indicative, it's not predictive. But my point is, there's a lot more money on the thoroughbred side than there is on the harness side. So even though I'm pretty sure they were homegrown out of harness, if I'm not mistaken, and harness supports them nicely, if you took their ad spend, you would make a decision that more of it should be spent on thoroughbred in that industry and in that media and going to those shows, et cetera, than should be spent on harness. Thoroughbred people are charged more for the same stuff for this very reason. When I owned both and lived in Phoenix, I bought stuff here, liniment, equipment, same stuff. I bought it here and shipped it to my thoroughbred trainer in Phoenix because in the tack shop at the thoroughbred track in Phoenix, it was 4 times the price of what it was in the tack shop at the harness track here in Cleveland. Why? Because thoroughbred people got more money, so we'll charge them more. Exactly. Retailers have done it for years with malls. If you go to a Gap in a real high-end mall, the pricing's adjusted up from the Gap in the low-end mall. Same shirt. We changed the pricing to discriminate against the rich guy. So you've got to be discriminatory in how you spend your ad dollars, your marketing dollars, your time, your energy, who you are appearing in front of, based on their value as a customer. I dated a girl in high school for 2 years. Probably would have stopped after a year, except I was having so much fun torturing her father that it made up for other aspects of the relationship that weren't so good. I really didn't want to stop just sticking it to him. So he was a mid-level executive at Goodyear. The perfect gray man. Right? And you could, when he came home from work, he got newspaper, martini, sat in his chair, back to the window. So you could set your watch by when his head appeared in the window. This is how regimented this guy is. I never saw his sock drawer, but I guarantee you, he had his poor wife putting all the black socks in one row and all the blue socks in another. I guarantee it. And he was the cheapest son of a bitch on the planet. Right? Made decent money, but like wedding anniversary every year was taking her to Bob's Big Boy. This is his big anniversary dinner. When I had no money, I lived like I had money. I'm now taking this girl to, the most expensive restaurant in downtown Cleveland with the view of the lake and shit. If we had had devices then, it would have been great. Because, you had to take pictures, get them developed, drop them off, leave them on the coffee table to piss them off. You couldn't, now you could have them pissed off before you got home. But who wants this guy as a customer? He has the ability to buy. He just doesn't want to spend any money. You got to figure that out and not be spending money on him. You got to spend money on somebody that wants to spend money, right? And if he's only going to come, let's say he took her out to a good restaurant, but he only did it once a year. No. See, if you're a florist, you want a badly behaved husband with a lot of money. That's what you want. He's like buying flowers every time he gets in trouble, right? I'll bet Trump's floral bill has got to, it makes Kobe Bryant's ring bill look like nothing. I mean, some floral shop is living off of him. It's like, oh shit, I did it again. Send a truckload. And a truckload tomorrow, and a truckload the day after that, until she finally shows up and walks without jerking her hand away. Then we'll stop the deliveries until I do something stupid again. That's got to be the plan, right? I mean, what a great customer, right? What a terrific customer. So the worst ad spend in the world, and 90% of the people that come to me are doing democratized ad spend. That's what they're doing. You've got to figure out how not to do that. So the radical plan we're pursuing, I'm on your page 28, for the rest of the day rest of 2 days, is delinking more income from more customers needed and more services provided. And this addiction to, this obsession with raw numbers more, bigger. It's a very hard habit to break. It's antithetical to everything you've done in business, probably. The guy with 3 stores is trying to figure out how to have a 4th store. He's not trying to figure out how to do democratized spending on advertising, get higher value customers, be able to close a store, have 2 stores, and make more money than if he had 4. That ain't what he's doing. Because everything he's come up in has been about how do we get the 4th store open? And then how do we get the 5th store open? And how do we get the 6th store open? You can have a professional practice, you can't fit a patient in the door. And if you ask the guy what he wants, it's more new patients. It'll always be his answer. Killing myself. 6-day week. Drag my ass home at 6 o'clock at night. It's Ben's pitch to the lawyers, right? How to be home every night on time for dinner, right? It's the exact opposite, right? I'm the first guy here, last guy to leave. I'm doing all the work. The staff wants more and more money. I'm dragging my ass. How do I get more new clients? Huh? No, how do you get rid of 30% of the ones you got and make the same money or more? See, but that delinking is a very hard habit to break. Therefore, pretty much nobody teaches it. I'm going to skip over that, but I mean, nobody teaches it because in reality, they don't know how to do it either. And it's antithetical to their self-interest. Now, here's why it's becoming more important than ever. The next big barrier to business growth has already surfaced, but it will get worse before it gets better. Staff. If your growth of income is linked to growth of size, growth in number of customers, growth in number of people served, you need employees, and you need more of them. Now, few of you are, my joke about Infusionsoft is for every account they add, they got to add a tech support person. So, that's sort of a one-to-one ratio. It makes life tough. But I mean, like, there's a big hardware store, Menards, opening over by Pete, and they need 450 employees to open a store. I don't know where they're going to find 450 employees. It's a mystery to me. There's a help wanted sign in every retail store window around here. Where are they going to find 450 retail sales clerks to man that store? They're not. This is particularly if they want usable employees. So Dave Ramsey, a bunch of you know, but a bunch of you will know Dave from the famous personal finance guru. So he told CEO Magazine this year that his company has 250 new job opens posting. He already employs 700, but he fully expects to only be able to hire half the number he needs by the end of the year. Because, quote, I'd rather not grow than insert 250 donkeys into our company who might destroy us. It's not about finding people, it's about finding the right people. And if you hire donkeys, your customers lose respect for you, and so do the thoroughbreds in your companies. Well, this is the new problem. Right? It's the new inhibition to growth. If this casino over here by the track got permission tomorrow from the state to double in size and put in full gaming, their first problem would be, how in the hell are we going to staff to do that? They're understaffed now. It's a good job in this area. They won't pass the drug tests, and they can't pass the background checks. So they're hiring every day. Every day. We're hiring. Just trying to stay even. So if you have that link, you're headed for bigger trouble, not less trouble. So you've got to de-link in ways that are antithetical to all the conditioning you've had. If I was competitive with mid-range copywriters. I need 10 times the units of business as I do now to earn my income target for the year. I would need a bunch of copy cubs, so I'd have to find and hire copy people. I'd have to manage people. Believe it or not, I can do it. I have done it. I have no interest in doing it. Nobody would want to be around me if I did, because people think I'm irritable now. You should have seen me with 42 employees. Right? So at 10 times the norm, now I got to perform, but other than that, I can manage the whole thing with one person 1,000 miles away. It's delinked. But if you ask most, it'll be, how do I get some more new clients? That's right where they are. So that delinking is very important. Here are why average customer value stays low. Really, why people don't delink. And for those of you keeping score, I'm on your page 30. One is this obsession with growth for the sake of growth, and usually visible growth for the sake of visible growth. So this is ego. Says, my buddies from college come to town. I do not want to show them the card table in the corner of the garage from which I make $5 million a year. I would rather show them the palatial office, the staff of 50 people running around like loony birds, and 4 stores from which I make $1 million a year. 5 million, $1 million, my ego can't take the extra 4 million. I'd rather spend it on all this shit so I have something to show off. I have a very good friend who changed his whole business model because he said, I don't want to die without buildings with my name on them. Now, it's fine. Whatever floats your boat. I'm big on money in the bank because my deal is autonomy. So, one of my favorite quotes about money is Groucho Marx's quote, which is, money's really useful if you don't want to do things. And there's a lot of things I don't want to do. And I don't want to trade that away for buildings with my name on them. Right? I mean, whatever motivates you. But there's a lot of this that happens out of pure ego. The other emotion that drives a lot of it is fear. If I don't look around and see a lot of people, a lot of customers, a lot of patients, a lot of staff, the person gets nervous. I must not have a successful business because successful businesses, I've been conditioned to believe, are full of people. The phone's ringing all the time. The phone's got to ring. Well, if the phone rings once a week and somebody gives you $250,000, that's probably all you need. But if you walk around in fear, if the phone ain't ringing every 5 minutes, you're going to do a bunch of stuff to make the phone ring that is just obsession with growth for the sake of growth. So that's one reason. And that keeps customer values low, because the more of them you need in almost every business, the lower the customer value is automatically going to be. Financial advisor will say, in this area, if we mail only to people with investable assets above X, we can only get X number of them into our workshops. We want more people in the workshops. We'll lower the threshold on the investable assets to get more names. Well, that'll work. But think about what you just did. You just added more of everything to wind up probably in the same net income position you were in before. How about we figure out how to cut the mailing list in half, only mail to people that have investable assets up here, mail to them 4 times as often, and have a truck pull up at their house instead of sending them a picture of a truck, and get less people in the room. Now, you can have that conversation with a client, because I have it all the time. But then, by the time they got home, they got hives over the whole idea. And they're right back to obsession with raw numbers. A client will be with me for a whole day, and it'll dawn on them. Nothing has interrupted us. The phone hasn't rang. The fax hasn't gone off. No human has appeared. Some will say, that would drive me nuts. I would think no money is being made. I couldn't do that. Well, that's all, right? It's here. It's not a reality. Zig said to me, I could never do your time slot. He said, I couldn't handle 2/3 of the place storming out the doors. I said, well, that's arguably because your whole life you've worked on big numbers. And maybe, if you want to give Zig some credit, I said, maybe you can give yourself some credit for the fact that you want to save as many souls as possible. And so it would bother you for that reason. Since I don't give a shit about that, and I only care about the buyers staying in the room, it doesn't bother me in the least. But that's a metaphor for everybody's business. Oh my God, we don't have a lot of people coming in. Oh my God, we have a bad retention rate. We don't have a lot of people staying. Oh my God, we don't have a raw number that makes us feel good. So that's reason number 1, right? Reason number 2 is they don't believe they have the ability to control the nature of the customer that they get. So that conversation almost always starts with the old chestnut of, Dan, you don't understand, my business is different, right? Or all customers for my business and or in this place buy by price, so I have to have volume in order to survive. So the second thing is the dumbest thing anybody can ever say, because we can go anywhere you want and pick any product category you want, and we can find price tiers operating. Right? Otherwise, you would go to Youngstown, Ohio, which is 90 minutes from here, and it ain't the armpit of the earth, but it's close. It's got about a 35% chronic unemployment rate, and everybody ought to be driving a used Kia. So the minute you see even a Ford, you're full of shit when you say everybody buys by price. No, they don't. Or they'd all be driving used Kias. Look, they're in a Cadillac. How could that be? Now, you may be going from Cleveland to Pittsburgh, but somebody lives in Youngstown that's got a Cadillac. I'll prove it to you. We'll drive around, knock on doors till we find one. I mean, it's just stupid. Right? But a lot of people believe it. They deeply believe it. Many years ago, I had physicians' weight loss centers who had physical brick and mortar locations as a client. And their number 1 location, 3 months in a row, was in Allentown, Pennsylvania, during the famous Allentown flood. The city was half underwater, and they outperformed 290 other weight loss clinics all across the country. Well, don't tell me you can't get them in to buy a $5,000 weight loss plan in an impoverished place in a flood. Not only can you get them in, they'll come 2 by 2. Right? I mean, it's a church joke for those of you that... But people don't believe they can control the nature of the customer they get. And they're afraid to repel any of them because that might be the last. So how many of you read the Jack Reacher books? Good, okay. You learn more looking around. You look at me. So a lot of people. So do not, if you've read the books and you haven't made this mistake yet, do not watch either of the movies because they cast Tom Cruise as Jack Reacher, which is like casting him as Jack Reacher. I mean, you talk about, these should be put in jail. But anyway, so there's a Jack Reacher quote that says, you should eat whenever you have an opportunity to eat and sleep whenever you have an opportunity to sleep, because in my line of work, you never know when you're going to get the next opportunity. Well, that's how business people behave about customers. We got to take this one, no matter how flea-bitten they obviously are, because we don't know when the next one will come. Well, the answer to that is not taking a bunch of crappy customers. The answer is fixing the problem that you don't know when the next one will come. So I know when my next one's coming, by the way. Now, I don't necessarily know from which source they're coming from, but I know when the next one is coming. So I have zero worry about casting them aside. But most people don't believe they can control it. 3, there's a lot of guilt about being discriminatory. I have this conversation with clients a lot more than I would think I would have to have this conversation. But if you stop and think about it, everybody is societally conditioned not to discriminate, not to turn anyone away, not to be mean to anybody, to be inclusive. That's how we're all conditioned. And you're a bad person if you're not. Okay? So there's this problem of who do you think you are? How dare you turn this patient away? You took the Hippocratic Oath. Yeah, but it refers to your patients. It doesn't refer to the human race. You didn't take the Hippocratic Oath to heal everybody. You know? Somebody else needs a shitty patient. Let them have them. Third chiropractor is the one that finally got some results for me with the, no, you can't come in when you want. Let's find 3 doctors in the yellow pages who will take you that way. Okay, all right, I'll come in. And first visit, do your exercises? Oh, yeah, I do my exercises. You know, they give you the sheet with the little drawings on them, and they check off the ones you're supposed to do. Oh, yeah. Good. Show me exercise number 3. Well, fuck. Exercise sheets went under the car seat. You know, I had no intention of doing the exercises. Who the shit are you kidding, right? I'm not doing any exercise. Show me exercise number 3. I didn't do the exercises. Okay, no treatment for you today. You got to leave. Make sure you're scheduled for the next one. And when you come in, you better be able to do all your exercises or I'm going to discharge you as a patient. Okay, I'll do the exercises, right? Well, that's right? That's the way to run a practice. No, you can't come to your report of findings meeting without your spouse. Because you ain't going to buy an $18,000 prepaid program of chiropractic treatment without your spouse. Show up without the spouse. What do? Send them home. And if they cancel and don't come back, good riddance. Because if they won't behave with the first thing, they aren't going to behave with the fourth thing either. I just made an exception. And I know I'm going to regret it. Kicking my ass. And it's because it's somebody I really wanted. I've sort of half-ass pursued them for 3 years, right? And so, first thing is they schedule. You'll appreciate this. So they go to schedule with Vicki, and of course, none of the 6 days that are available to them will work. And furthermore, if we wait that long, we won't be able to have the marketing campaign done for this season, right? I said, even if I backed it up, you still wouldn't be able to have the marketing campaign done. I'm not sitting around with nothing to do, right? So they went away, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I probably dodged a bullet. They come back a week later and grudgingly take one of the days, right? But I hear the other day, they won't stay at the La Quinta. They're going to stay at the Ritz-Carlton downtown and drive out in the morning. And Vicki said, what do you want to do? You want to cancel them? I said, no. And ever since, I'm waking up every morning saying I should have canceled. Because if they won't behave with the first thing, they're not going to behave with the second thing either, and I'm going to be kicking my ass. You know? It's just, so there should be no reason you're not willing to discriminate. But the worst reason of all would be guilt over doing it. This is not 1940. The gay person who wants a wedding cake and you won't bake it for him. It ain't the only bakery. Those days, see, when the black guy gets on the bus now, all the bus drivers don't say, go to the back of the bus. There's some that still think it, but there's a lot of choices of buses. There's Uber. Everybody can get from where they are to where they want to go. So a bunch of this in 1940, yeah, you had to be prohibited from discriminating in any way, shape, or form. Don't run an ad that drives anybody off because, shit, you're the only guy in town who repairs shoes. Amazon will deliver 56 pair of new shoes. You can try them all on, and they'll pay you to keep one. You don't even need to get them repaired. We live in a magical time. So you can discriminate against anybody or any group of people. They'll be fine. They'll do okay. Next reason. Distracted versus focused and persistent. So the biggest distraction that gets in people's way is low-hanging fruit. Okay? There's some type of customer, client, patient, or donor for their business that they've always got, that they're very comfortable getting, and that's relatively easy to get. They're either right here, I can just reach up and take them, or they've fallen off the tree, they're on the ground. I could just come along and scoop them up. It's very addictive because everything else now is more difficult. Shit, I got to climb the tree. I might fall off. Crap, right? I got to buy a piece of equipment that gets me up to the top of the tree. It's more difficult and it's more expensive. So the tendency is always to see it, to see the flaws and the fallacies and the problems with the low-hanging fruit, to see the better opportunity, but then to fall back to the low-hanging fruit. What we've always done, it's easiest, it doesn't require a learning curve, it's cheap, there's a lot of it. I'll live on the low-hanging fruit. This is price and profit suppressive because everybody lives on the low-hanging fruit. And somebody's always willing, by the way, to price themselves against you into bankruptcy court. See, the thing that has always kept, like us and Russia, from blowing each other up is the mutual destruction thing, right? Nobody's going to hit the red button because before you can get there, the other guy's going to hit the red button and everybody's gone, right? The worry about the guy in North Korea is he's nuts, right? So, shit, he might hit the red button even though he knows everybody's going to be gone. That's been the big worry. It turns out he ain't nuts. He may be many things, but nuts he ain't. If you've watched him handle this whole process, he ain't crazy. He's pretty sane and he's pretty smart. So mutual destruction works. Mutual destruction doesn't work in business. First of all, there's a bunch of businesses that are venture capital black holes that get to play with fake money. You're trying to use real money. They're using fake money. They'll price you right into bankruptcy. And then there's a lot of stupid people because the Internet's removed barriers to entry, so you didn't have to be real smart and you didn't have to have any money to smart, so they'll price themselves right into bankruptcy. So the low-hanging fruit place, it almost guarantees bankruptcy. At some point, it almost guarantees it. But that is a big factor for people. The fifth reason that this average customer value stays low is finally the practical one, the one that's real, which is your business is badly matched with high-value customers. So you've been perhaps eating low-hanging fruit. You got barely adequate employees. So this hotel was sold since the last time we were here, for those of you that, and half the staff was here before and half the staff is new. You can tell the difference without me pointing them out to you. I overheard the one on the front desk yesterday, and she's on the phone with some confused customer, guest, maybe one of you, because a bunch of you were trying to put your end of the... And so it probably was stupid questionville on the other end, I don't know. But she was clearly losing her cool with this guest. Now, at this level of hotel, probably doesn't do much harm. Does some, though. One level down wouldn't do any harm at all. Right? One level up, she's like deadly. She's deadly. Speak to me that way. I'm canceling my reservation. I'm not coming. I'm never coming again. I'm moving, and I'm telling 100 people about her. It's deadly. So the fifth thing that gets in the way is your business, your products. That's why Disney's creating all these tier products, because they need stuff for the higher value customer and a higher value customer and a higher value customer. Started with one kind of private guide, one price. Then they went to 2. Then they went to 3. Now there's 5 choices at 5 different price points. It reminds me, by the way, from your former life, Sydney, of Cachet, right? Fundamentally, same service, 2 different phones, 2 different prices. Customers happy, paying the higher price. So the products don't match the highest value customer. Place, what they experience in your sales and service environment. Process, the way you handle them, sell to them, onboard them. The people, your staff, big, and price. You're anxiety-inducing underpriced for the customer you want. It's because if we can't make decisions any other way, right? Now I know I'm overpaying for my dry cleaning, but I know I'm getting great dry cleaning. If I was underpaying, I would worry every time. Uh-oh, am I going to get that jacket to my speaking engagement in Tupelo and take the plastic off and the lapels are pressed wrong? I know at these prices that ain't happening. And if it does, boy, it'll only happen once. So we can have price issues that keep us from attracting our highest value customers. So here's your next homework. Let me do a little quickie demo. Now you got to look around at each other. So raise your hands nice and high if you have to characterize yourself conservative, libertarian, or liberal. How many would characterize themselves as conservative? Raise your hands. Everybody look around. Okay, put them down. How many would characterize yourselves as libertarian? Okay. How many would characterize yourselves as liberal? One hand and one left over. So if we're going to play the odds in our ad spend and in our content, our outreach to people, who should I try to please? And who should I not care about? Doesn't mean they're bad people, by the way. Right? They're ill-advised and misguided. But look, I'm not in the business of saving them. That ain't my job. Raise your hands if you read a lot. Yeah, you read a lot. Raise your hands if you don't. Raise your hands if you still go to a physical brick and mortar bookstore. Look around now. You learn more looking around the dam. Okay? Keep your hand up if when you go to a physical brick and mortar bookstore, you buy more than one book. Okay, you put them down. See, I already know this, and it informs everything I do. How many of you have a philosophical belief in work? Okay. Well, if you're not sure, keep your hand down. It'll still be the majority. Okay. How many of you are looking for the 4-hour work week and the lazy man's way to riches? There's at least 5 of you lying sons of bitches. How many worked for real, a real job, when you were very young? Like child labor young. Look around. So now what story do I want to tell, and who do I not want to bother to appeal to? How many of you resent, vilify the rich kind of conversation in public media? Like how many of you bristled at Obama's "you didn't build that"? Look around, right? So these are all characteristics of my highest value customers. I know what makes them what they are. So your homework assignment, which should be your next little box, I think, in your book. What's the difference between your current value customer, your average value customer, and your customer that's worth 2 of them? What's the difference in the ones that are worth 4 of them? What's the difference in the ones that are worth 7 of them? Find it out. Figure it out. And don't do it by a damn survey monkey questionnaire. Please. Talk to them. Look at them. Have far-reaching, eclectic conversations. Plot Where do they live? How many of you are long married? Raise your hands. You'll learn more if you look around. Look around. Long married. Well, it's a value choice, right? So if you play the odds and you have the ability to market, to tilt the marketing, to tilt the message to long married people, isn't that what you would do? Does it drive off some customers who are decent customers, but they get divorced every 2 years? Maybe. But if you play the odds, so you got to figure out what's the difference between the average value customer and the 400% more valuable customer. And then with that as the starting point, we can do a bunch of smart things. It is lunchtime. Your lunch is with Adam Whitty. The Porsche is outside. If you would like to see or take pictures with the Porsche, I assume the food bank truck is outside. I don't know that for sure, but you need to hustle your way to lunch. But the rolls are still there. You have a little time after lunch. Okay, we are going to start back at 1:35. Adam is going to turn you loose at 1:20. That gives you 15 minutes after lunch to do other things. At 1:34, I'm going to give away a prize. Have a good lunch.